We begin with a story you've been hearing in our news bulletins throughout the course of the morning, and that's on parking fines, because Clare County Council collected more than €120,000 in parking fines last year. 2025 also saw a fourfold increase in the number of parking fines issued at the Cliffs of Moher. According to new figures, the total sum collected in parking fines in the Banner County across last year was €126,295. That was 15% above the figure for 2024. 61% of the fines were issued in Ennis, but the county town saw a 3% drop in fines compared to the previous year. Joining me on this in studio is the Mayor of Ennis, the Ennis Fine Gael Councillor Mary Howard, and on the line with the Lisdoonvarna Fine Gael Councillor Joe Garrihy, and you're both very welcome to the show. Mary, Ennis accounting for 61% of all parking fines issued in the county, yet the town saw a 3% drop last year. So how do you interpret these figures?
That's a very interesting question, because I'd love to see more a deep dive into these figures, because a 3% decrease in fines, does that imply that we have compliance across the county or across the county town? You know, I often talk about that I seem to have a parking ferry on my shoulder. I'm parked right outside the door this morning. If I come in the morning, I go to Abbey Street. Come in the afternoon, I go to Templegate. If it's lunchtime, I go to Water Park. And I suppose that's local knowledge, that I know where there is parking, and I've never yet had to leave town because I couldn't find parking. And like saying, a Saturday I use the Holy Family when all the car parks are definitely going to be full. The one thing that jumped out at me from this is the fact that it's down 3%, which is only a small percentage in fines. But the naysayers within the town, has this become a self-fulfilling prophecy where they said there's been no parking in Ennis? Have people stayed out of the town? And I'd like to, I'd love a deep dive into these to see the big complaint I'm getting all the time is the abuse, I suppose, really, of the disabled parking spots. Of the priority parking spots, which are for older people, disabled people, the mother and baby spots that are outside supermarkets, is the blatant abuse of those. So I'd love to know how many of those parking fines were for that. I know a number of people over Christmas got caught with the loading bay up outside Carrigdon in O'Connell Square, because with the reconfiguration of the street, the loading bay and the disabled spot was moved across the street. That caught some people on the hop, and I did get a couple of phone calls about it. But you know what? They took it in the chin. They had no problem, you know, when I explained to them, you know, maybe it wasn't advertised or they weren't aware of it.
That is an interesting point you make about whether people, because of what we're hearing, and you know, we've heard parking situation in Ennis covered many times on this show, whether people are actually, I was wondering about, maybe have somehow more spaces become available. But as you're suggesting, Mary, maybe more people are staying away. Is it increased compliance by motorists? Perhaps changes in enforcement levels? It does need more kind of, I suppose, a deep dive to really get to the heart of it.
Like, I'd love to know how many of those had stayed over the time that they had paid for, how many were on double yellow lines, how many were on footpaths, which I think is an appalling thing to do, how many were in these disabled spots. So to break that down and actually see where this is coming from. I would like to think it's compliance, that the reason is that it's down 3%, but I do fear that people stayed away from Ennis when in fact I've always found, and yes, every town in Ireland, it is a conversation up and down the country about parking, because every house now has not just got one or two, it probably has 3 or 4 cars. And we're all trying to get into town to do our business. But I've never left the town because I couldn't find parking. It is there. It might take a little bit of time. It might take a little bit of local knowledge. But and it's, I know, something that very much we're aware of at council level. Okay. But I just thought it was an interesting figure. But I'd love to find out more information on that actual figure.
Well, we will put this out to people as well. We'd love to hear your own experiences with parking in Ennis, or indeed out by the Cliffs of Moher. Because we're going to chat now to Joe Garrihy about that. And Joe, while there was a 3% drop in parking fines issued in Ennis last year, parking fines at the Cliffs of Moher more than quadrupled. Is there anything in particular you can think of that's driving such a sharp increase, a fourfold increase at one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country?
Yeah, and good morning and Happy New Year to you and Mary and to all your listeners. Look, I suppose, looked in isolation, parking fines are a means to an end, to make the experience of where people are going better, and to also look after the local people that are there and make sure that people are not causing obstructions, and that was an ongoing issue for many years. And I suppose it's still ongoing up at the likes of the Cliffs of Moher and other areas that are very attractive and highly visited. So I think to see the increase in fines, I think that indicates better enforcement, but it also indicates, a drive to an overall strategy to manage tourism, particularly in North Clare. And we've spoken before about the fledgling North Clare Mobility and Transport Plan that has elements in it to do that. So I think there's more enforcement, and it's also enforcement. It's a carrot and a stick approach that I would like to see is being delivered, where you saw last year where you had the Burn and Cliffs of Moher shuttle, allowing people other options, the towns and villages around North Clare. And you saw the opening of the new car park in Ennis, which is a hugely positive thing. So I think everything has to be done as part of an overall plan. And as Mary said there, like you look at Ennis, places like the Cliffs of Moher and our beautiful countryside, we want more people coming. They're beautiful places to go. And it's a fantastic town. Cliffs of Moher and the attractions around County Clare are fantastic, but at the same time, we need to manage that properly. And I suppose the fines and enforcement is a critical part of that. But we also need to continue investing in options for people.
Yeah, and as you say, the shuttle bus, you would expect to make a significant impact on that. But is there a risk, Joe, that aggressive enforcement could damage Clare's tourism reputation? Because a fourfold increase is pretty eye-opening.
I think, look, it needs a deep dive into those figures, as both yourself and Mary have highlighted there. We need to know how many of those fines were, deliberate, careless, obstruction of access for farmers to pathways or to into their land to go about their daily business. We need to find out who, accidentally pulled up for a short period of time and inadvertently got delayed. So I think there's a value in that. And every time you're doing enforcement, particularly in areas where you want people to visit, it's really important that the people carrying out the job are doing it with, I suppose, with a benign approach, and their ambassadors as such. Traffic warden is a difficult job. Like, it's not something that an awful lot of us would like to do because it's not a popular thing, but it's really essential. So we really are dependent on the people carrying out the job as well to be, very, very skilled in the way they deal with people and very understanding as well, and so that those who are inadvertently affected aren't punished, out of order, and that those that are, we need to comply with the parking laws. Okay,
Mary, just to
have a deterrent.
Yeah, just to bring you back in, Mary. I mean, the overall amount close to €127,000, so that's 15% above the previous year's figure for 2024. I mean, when you look at that amount coming in, it's the more has come in previous years. Although, as I say, it's more than 2024. Do you believe the system is fair and proportionate, or, as we've been mentioned a few times already, yourself and Joe, you'd need to really dive deeper into this to really get to the heart of the matter and find out just how fair and proportionate it is?
Yeah, there's definitely a piece of work to be done on this to find out what the culture we're dealing with. Is it blatantly double yellow lines? Is it, what are people, what are the offences?
Misunderstanding in some cases.
Exactly, like at Christmas time, as I said, about the loading bay. Now, I have to say, I would have a very good relationship with all of our traffic wardens. They are very patient people, and they always give you the benefit of the extra few minutes. So it's not them applying the law rigorously because they understand that people get delayed, that they might be a little bit slow on their feet. There's
a kind of a period of grace.
Yes, yeah. And I would often be chatting with them, and they're keeping an eye on cars that could be an hour or, maybe in around an hour over with the charge has been used up, that they've paid the meter. So, and as Joe said, it is a thankless job. They do get, a lot of verbal abuse, and but I'd love to know what the culture, why like 126,000 is a substantial amount of money. It is revenue that Clare County Council needs, which is very welcome, but it's a lot of money, and I would love to know where exactly what the issues that people are dealing with. And maybe we can do a campaign of awareness to say, listen, now I know that the town has been reconfigured once the public realm works is finished. And people, that's people are getting used to that idea, and we've tried to replace all of the disabled parking spots to move them if they have been taken away with the works. But and just make people aware, this is no longer a regular spot. This is now a disability spot or you have other ones around the town that have changed in order to facilitate people within the town, whether they have children or they're disabled or they're elderly, or there's some. They just need a little bit more space, a little bit more time. Because we are an age-friendly town. I think we are a friendly town. And it's just to try and work out how do we improve on this.
Okay, and mentioning, you said there, Mary, that it's the money that comes in from this is important for the council. We got in touch with them for a response on this, and their statement says that money collected from parking fines forms part of the council's revenue budget and contributes to the range of services provided by the council. A difference in the number of fines issued from year to year can occur for a variety of reasons. These may include, but are not limited to, the following: staffing levels, festivals and events taking place, the weather, particularly at coastal locations. So, yeah, as we were touching on, there could be any number of reasons as to why you see variances in how much or how little fines are being handed out. Joe, I'm just wondering, have you received complaints from people out your way, from visitors or local businesses about parking fines at the Cliffs? And is enough being done to clearly signpost the parking rules and the legal parking options for tourists in particular, who in fairness may be unfamiliar with the area?
Yeah, the most level of complaints we would have got over the last number of years and ongoing have been from local people around the Cliffs whose daily lives were being impacted by illegal parking or parking in gateways and that kind of thing. So in terms of from people who were subject to the fines, I haven't actually had any complaints, but I guess it's a double-edged sword. You want to make sure that the local lives of people are not negatively impacted by the huge numbers that are going to places like the Cliffs. And, you have these areas of huge congestion potential. And in 2025, a number of the actions that were taken, including the shuttle bus, the shuttle bus took for nearly 50,000 cars off the road, in its initial year. So I think it's looking at parking fines and enforcement on its own isn't the way to go. You need to look at a holistic approach. As I said before, a carrot and a stick. And, when the money is coming in from fines, that should be reinvested into solutions and into things like, as I said, the car parking in Ennis Diamond this year. Doolin is another area where you can get huge congestion at good weather, and there are improvements there now with pedestrian links. So it has to be part. And what we need to do when we're looking at these figures that we're talking about this morning, what can we learn from them, and what can we apply in a broader sense to not have any fines, to make sure that people have places to park and make sure you have maximum compliance, and where people do flout those regulations and lose respect for others, pedestrians, people with disabilities, farmers and people going about their everyday lives, then there is a necessity for enforcement, because you have to have a deterrent.
Yeah.
I think over a period of time, if it's consistently applied, along with us in the County Council making sure that alternatives are put in place and that it's fair to both, and again emphasising the importance of the role of the people who play the role of enforcement. And as I said before, not a popular job. It's difficult, and by and large, I've always found people who do it in a very fair and decent manner.
Okay.
I think they should be respected as well.
Okay, I'll just go back to. Okay, I'll just go back to Mary. And actually, just before I do, plenty of you getting in touch on this. We'd love to hear your views on the parking situation, be it in Ennis or elsewhere around the county, and your own experiences, be they positive or negative. A listener here to Morning Focus, 086 1800 964, says something needs to be done about people who have no children constantly taking parent and child spots. At least for the disabled parking, you have to have a sticker. There needs to be some way of checking people in parental spots too. If you say it to someone, they don't give a damn. It's very frustrating, and I can imagine, Mary, that is one of the issues out there. I mean, do you think that is there a case for reviewing parking bylaws or time limits in Ennis to better support local businesses while still preventing illegal parking, or is there a need to change time limits? Because as you already just mentioned a while ago, the parking wardens are fairly not lenient, but they're not overly stringent. If you go a little bit over, they're going to give you that allowance for if you were just a little bit late finishing your shopping or whatever it might be.
Yeah, there's I suppose as regards the disability parking and the priority parking, age-friendly parking, mother and baby parking, it's about respect. They're there for a reason, and I appeal to people to please be respectful. You're able-bodied, you don't have a child, and just think of those people.
I suppose the unfortunate thing is there's always going to be people you appeal, like with littering, personal responsibility, but there are just going to be people who don't give a damn, and no amount of pleading or messages will get through to them.
The sun rises in the morning and it shines on them, and as it sets in the evening, puts a beautiful golden glow around them. I meet them every day of the week, and it's hugely frustrating. And you just say to them, please just be respectful of others. There, for the grace of God, go any of us that you need a disability spot in the future. And as I said, that maybe people are very compliant here in the town, that the figures are down, and I would love to see that. But I think certainly the parking bylaws need to be looked at, and I think some hard decisions might need to be made. As regards, you talk to our parking attendants any day of the week, and they will tell you that in excess of 70% of parking spots, particularly in the prime spots, which is Abbey Street and Mudkey, are taken up by residents and by business owners or staff. So, that's wrong. We have a couple of high-rise parking facilities in the town that are never full.
Would you hope the bus service, when that it's expected, I know it's been postponed until the summer, but if hopefully it does come in then, that we'll see that make a positive impact in terms of parking fines that might drop even further?
Well, you know what? This summer I'm on the SPC with Joe, the tourism SPC, to see that there was almost 50,000 people use that bus service in North Clare. That was brilliant to hear that. And I know in the first month that a town that's a similar size to Ennis is Carlow, in the first month, which was the month of July, which wouldn't be a busy month, say, with school or, people taking holidays and stuff. In its first month, there was over 10,000 journeys taken on their local bus service. So you can imagine 10,000 cars taken out of the streets of Ennis in a matter of, weeks. That is very welcome, and I'm we're very disappointed it's not here. It seems the goalposts keep being moved. We've all of our work done that we were expected to do here in Clare County Council. We've done the routes. Everything's been agreed. We have named and identified where the stops are going to be. It's just waiting for the mechanism from national government
to expect it to happen by summer?
If it doesn't, I'll be kicking and screaming because it's going on too long.
You don't want to see that, so you...
not a pretty sight. I'm 17 years in the job now, waiting for this bus service to come to the town of Ennis, and I think it's the way to go. Okay. And it'll be right outside my door.
Oh, sure. Look, no wonder you wanted to come as soon and quickly as possible. We look forward to that. We're almost out of time, but last 30 seconds or so to you, Joe. I mean, looking ahead to what you'd expect to be another busy tourism season in summer 26, you would hope maybe the shuttle bus will continue to make a positive impact there. Anything else you'd like to see in how parking is managed at the Cliffs of Moher? We've someone saying here, shuttle on 086 1800 964, shuttle bus from Lisdoonvarna to Cliffs, but nowhere to park officially.
I think awareness of that shuttle bus needs to be really rolled out extensively now this year because an awful lot of people didn't know about it. It wasn't being promoted at the level in the town, at some of the towns and villages where it came from. And I think the Cliffs of Moher and the County Council and our Falls Ireland have a big role to play because it is a flagship initiative. So I think people's awareness of it, and as you said earlier, the signage, all of that needs to be enhanced. We need to compliment TII and Local Link as well, who have almost doubled their services to North Clare, to the towns and villages from Galway and Limerick. So awareness of that, an awful lot of people aren't aware of that, and that slows down tourism. So we need to continue investing in our roads, especially alongside of this. The amount of traffic, and it's really welcome across the county. our roads need upgrading. We need more funding to do that, and I think Fáilte Ireland have a big role to play in that, because we're dependent very much on tourism and tourism county. So the quality of experience, like we've talked about parking and everything else, the roads to where we're going need to be improved. I look forward to seeing an increased investment.
Yeah, and it says it all that this is the third day of Morning Focus in 2026, and it's the third time that the condition of the roads out in West Clare has been mentioned, and the need for further investment in the roads in the west and north. And I'm no doubt we'll continue to hear those calls until such a time as that increased investment is provided. Definitely needed. We do have to leave it there, but would love to hear from more of you out there about your own experiences with parking and fines and so on, be it positive, negative, or if you just have a particular view on it. 086 1800 964. My thanks to Joe Garrihy and to Mary Howard for being with us on Morning Focus.